Chris!
Heath.
I choose you.
Always nice to be selected for something.
You want to be the very best?
Like no one ever was?
Pick up a gun and shoot your friend.
Oh my.
It's a pal world.
So we ended last episode with Pal World Talk, and now we're kicking off episode 99 with the same topic?
Yeah, it's like poetry. It rhymes. Pal World is the biggest craze, and I thought about trying it, but then that $30 price tag discouraged me.
Thank goodness. If I had to sit here through more Pal World Talk, I don't know if I could handle it.
I hear it's a good game.
Yeah, who do you hear that from?
Bad influencers.
Sounds about right. I'm going to continue to come out as
We are good influencers.
Oh, we're the best. The highest quality.
At Mobius Tubes.
A video gaming podcast. This is episode 99, being recorded on January 28th, 2024.
I stomped on your segue there. You said you were going to try to what?
Oh, I have no clue.
Oh, then let me play it back for you.
I'm going to continue to come out as a...
Yeah, you're going to continue to come out as what?
Going to continue to come out as a staunch Pal World hater. I'm not going to be converted.
You're a Pokemon hater to begin with, so how much credence does your opinion get?
Well, more on that later this very episode.
Oh my god.
But it's not even really cribbing from Pokemon's mechanics. Just as the aesthetics.
Right. It's stealing from Factorio and
Arc
RimWorld.
Survival
Arc
Evolved.
Survival, yeah. That's why that piqued that was a feather in its cap for a moment. But we're not here to talk about Pal World.
I sincerely hope we're not. We're here to talk about games. I feel like it's episode 99, Heath. We're inches from the finish line.
What anniversary gift are we supposed to get each other? You know those? Do your parents do that?
Oh, after certain anniversary milestones?
I think you're like 6th year, you're supposed to get them candy or iron. One of the two. Wow. 13th anniversary is lace. I'm just picking ones at random.
Who sets these rules?
25th is silver. That seems normal. But then 35th is coral.
Coral?
Just grab a chunk out of the sea.
Interesting. That sounds highly suspect to me.
46th anniversary is games. So we just have to make this podcast going for that long.
Oh, then we can finally gift each other some games.
Like Janice does. And and we'll see who plays them. Who makes these rules? No, these are long standing.
They may have endured for a long time, but it sounds like no one actually practices them.
Imagine in your mind Chris going off to World War I, and then Samantha is like, here, happy anniversary. You're being shipped towards, not Normandy, because that's World War II. World War I's Normandy. And it's your 9th anniversary, so she gets you willow or pottery.
I hope it doesn't break when the U-boats attack.
Yep, it sure, yeah. Okay, all right, back to video games.
Yeah, back to video games. Heath, I've primarily only been playing one thing. How about yourself?
You're gonna be if I say the answer to that question, you're just gonna be disgusted.
Is this a classic? Heath doesn't have anything substantial he's been playing?
Well, okay, so Heath booted up Frostpunk again, and he played Winter Home again, because it's just it scratches the itch that Wilmot's Warehouse does, where you have like a big mess and it's up to you to organize it. So I did that for several hours.
Before we move away from Frostpunk,
God
I actually have something Frostpunk related to
No,
talk to
you
you about.
don't.
Yes, I do. Shout out to a gaming YouTube channel called Cool Ghosts, who released their first video upload in 4 years a couple days ago.
Oh. The 4th year anniversary is fruit or flowers. Continue.
Anyway, it's a YouTube channel by a journalist named Matt Lees. One of the games he discussed in this re-coming out party was Frostpunk.
Hey.
And I thought he had an interesting criticism of it. It's a game he ultimately likes a lot. That's why he cared so much to point this out. But
you better watch what he says before I bring him to life only to kill him again.
He was commenting on how the ethical decisions in Frostpunk often put you in an uncomfortable position where you need to make a call one way or the other, and they're all various shades of gray. Whether you sacrifice the child to put more workers and more coal in your pockets.
Yeah, you do.
To keep everyone, it's for the greater good.
Yeah, their small fingers can get in the machines more easily.
You need to make tough calls to survive in Frostpunk, but hey, you can forgive yourself because you just did what had to be done. And you've hit the credits in Frostpunk.
Oh, several times.
And apparently, this will be intimately familiar to you. You're treated with a cool time-lapse overview of your city as it's constructed.
Yep.
And the game poses the question with you, hey, you survived, but at what cost? Was it worth it? But if your Frostpunk journey is cut short prematurely, you freeze to death early, you don't hit the credits, there is no time-lapse recap chronologing your journey because you hit a fail state.
Right.
And that's the game kind of asking you a hollow question. You hit the credits, you got the victory, and then it's like trying to make you reconsider your actions because, oh, did you have to sacrifice your humanity to get there? But in reality, it just doesn't let you, if you try to be a morally upstanding mayor of Frostpunk and you only reach the 50th percentile mark, it doesn't give you that same like closure. It's the game implying, no, you actually failed. You need to sacrifice your humanity if you want to beat this game.
XCOM, it is not. The canon way to beat the game is to choose either fascism or theocracy.
Right, to sacrifice your morals, be a bit unscrupulous. It would be cool if you could try to play the most morally upstanding way possible. And even if you do fall short...
and it would be cool if you could win XCOM by piecing out with the aliens as they wear your skin.
The criticism was the fact that Frostpunk wags its finger at you at the end is kind of an empty point of derision at you. Because the only reason you're there to have the finger wagged at you is because you followed the instructions and sacrificed the kids.
Yeah, it may wag the finger at you, but it's not... Thankfully, I'm not even going to try to provide a counterpoint because Frostpunk 2 is my counterpoint. It's going to rewrite the history and make sure that your cool ghost's complaints makes him vanish.
Oh.
For another 4 years.
Another 4 years.
Be gone.
He'll reemerge next decade to talk about Frostpunk 2.
To say I was wrong. It wasn't a hollow gesture.
Okay. That was my only input on Frostpunk.
Yeah, so I played Frostpunk with my gaming time, and then I played Inscription with my gaming time.
Some more.
I fired up Casey's mod. I beat another one of those challenges. You know how you can buff the bosses?
I have never touched Casey's mod.
Okay, so aside from the Endless Runner, it has like Transistor-esque, you make the enemy stronger, and in return, you earn story lore.
Love it. I like that.
Casey is a developer.
Okay.
And you get Casey's devlogs if you win. Whatever. So I beat a thing I'd never beaten before. But I'm like, God, I'm playing Frostpunk and Inscription with my gaming time. Chris is going to hate me. So I'm like, I gotta play something I've never played before he walks through my door. So I opened up Chrome and I typed in Crash Team Racing in browser. And what? So I'm greeted with a wooden crate that's sparkling and shimmying. It has Naughty Dog's logo on it. It suddenly bursts, and all these characters I don't recognize shower in. I liked the racing flag checkered loading screens. Suddenly, Crash Bandicoot is sitting in a Mario Kart. He's greeted by a mask. The mask has no text or dialogue, which makes me think that's a bug on the part of this emulator I'm playing. I'm suddenly in the hub world. I'm able to race around to other levels. I raced straight up to Crash's Cove, which is the first level I've ever played.
Were you greeted with any story cutscenes to develop the rich lore of Crash Team Racing?
I think just what I told you. They burst from the crate, and then I pick my racing character, and it prompts me to type in my name and save to a memory card. But I think I'm. Describe this cutscene. I might remember it.
You know, I might be crossing the wires with Crash Tag Team Racing.
Or friggin' Nitro, whatever.
Yeah, Nitro Refueled is like the remaster.
Yes.
So I can't comment. Proceed with your impressions.
So I drive straight into Crash Cove, and it's like, on your marks, get set, go, and I'm off to the races. it felt like 50cc until the emulator just started to lag. So it was even slower. It was like 25cc. The music was just stuttering because my laptop couldn't handle it, apparently, or it just wasn't optimized for it. I got 3 items. I got a bomb. I got a box of TNT. And then the third item was like a vial of blood, it looked like. So love the variety in CTR. I came in first place.
Naturally.
Yeah. After I won, I was booted back into that hub world, and I was greeted by that mask again that had no dialogue. And I felt like I checked that box. CTR, it was probably novel of a racing game to have a hub world that you could maneuver around. I didn't see that in any Mario Kart.
I suspect the masked floating man was supposed to have text dialogue.
Yeah, he didn't eke him or boke him.
I think you're playing... All right, first of all, this whole experiment is completely unhinged.
It's sacrilege.
I love it. And this version seems highly suspect.
Yeah. I recognize Conker.
There's no way Conker's in there.
It was the squirrel mascot.
No, really?
Yeah, he was in a cart. He was on the front row.
Conker, developed by Rare, who appears on Nintendo's platforms, was on this Sony exclusive?
Come on. It was a squirrel thing racing.
That might be a symptom of this in-browser version CTR.
No, it was the genuine version. Where are these characters?
Could it have been Coco?
Aku, Coco. Coco's the girl.
Yes.
No, Coco greets you at the podium when you finish.
Right.
In a real T for teen looking way. I saw a squirrel.
I never in a million years would have guessed this was the update I had in store for me.
Yeah, so...
You were speaking to the game's novelty. You've unlocked a memory for me, my one funny story about Crash Team Racing. Because, of course, as a kid, I had a PlayStation long before I had any Nintendo consoles.
Right.
So my introduction to the kart racing genre was Crash Team Racing. Mario Kart, couldn't recognize him. So I played this game first, and eventually... Many years later, I took a family trip to DC to visit my cousins, and they had a Nintendo GameCube where they treated me to a very fun time playing Mario Kart Double Dash, but...
You're like, oh, this is just like CTR.
I'm having just as much fun as CTR, but there was a big paradigm shift where CTR had all of this like narrative set dressing to like contextualize why you're racing as Crash Bandicoot.
It did?
Yes. Believe it or not, there was supposed to be dialogue. The masked man talks to you. But when they sat me down, when my cousin Casey sat me down in front of Mario Kart and we just started racing, I was like, whoa, hold the phone. Isn't this a little premature?
Why? Why do we race?
The fact that it was pure mechanics didn't sit right for me. Despite the narratives being fairly shallow, they were there. And the fact that Nintendo was just mechanics first and foremost was an eye-opening experience to me. That's my CTR story.
In conclusion, comment in the chat how many hours of his favorite games Heath will play and what Chris bait he will choose next.
Thanks for treating me to that, Heath.
You betcha.
I've got one update. And it's on Marvel's Midnight Suns because, let me tell you, this is one long video game.
That was the other thing. You were like, Marvel Midnight Suns is $12. And I was like, what a snub it would be if I spent $30 on Pal World.
Oh, I'll be talking enough Midnight Suns for the both of us. Hey, this is that Marvel strategic card game developed by Firaxis that I've been playing.
You bonk the enemies into each other for maximum points.
You sure do. It's a surprisingly narrative-heavy strategic card game.
Like CTR, sorry. It raced past strategic... Wait, what?
Raced.
Narratively heavy.
Right. Where you take on the role of several of the Avengers you know and a lot of the Midnight Suns you may not, like Magic or Blade. Here's what I've got to say. I'm still loving it. It's possibly... the strategic card game with the most lavish production values ever created.
Queen Maeve doesn't have production value. Oh,
Even
you're right.
Thronebreaker isn't quite this pretty.
No, you're right.
The fact that every time you play a simple card, and then all of a sudden, Captain Marvel does like a beautifully animated pile driver into the Hydra forces. When you're staring at the well-modeled characters on the battlefield, it looks like it could just be a AAA action game.
Yeah.
Except everyone's statically posing until you play a card.
Much to the chagrin of many gamer bros expecting it to be Devil May Cry with Spider-Man.
Right. Screenshots could be misleading if you don't see this game in motion. The animation work in general is just so much better than it needed to be. Really impressive stuff. Even the most simple, you send Spider-Man to go run over and put his shoulder into a Hydra grunt to like shove him. It just has a
He's
satisfying...
like, hey, I'm walking here.
It has a satisfying impact behind it. The animation work in general sells the superhero fantasy, despite the fact that you're just playing a couple cards. So hats off to how gorgeous this game looks. Last time I commented on how I think this game has like a very light rules overhead you need to come to grips with. There's not that many decisions that need to be made. Every turn, you play 3 cards and you move one of your heroes. And that's it. And yet, the complexity that emerges from the order in which you play your cards is extremely rich and often gives me choice paralysis in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I'm not grappling with how to play, I'm grappling with how I should be playing, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm eking out just small victories on a turn-by-turn basis. When you get presented with like how many foes are you have to grapple with, and you see your hand dealt out in front of you, it feels desperate, but almost never hopeless. I'd like to take a look at the behind-the-scenes algorithm that is used to fine-tune what cards you end up drawing. I'm curious if it's actually legitimately random, or if there's some...
it tries to balance for you.
Some finagling going on behind the scenes, because the balance is so impeccable. Like, it's once again Into the Breach vibes, where the situation initially seems dire, but then you find that golden critical path of, if I play this card with this synergy and then follow it up with this card, there's like this one golden path that will take you to the promised land of success. But it takes a little while to like see it. And the fact that eking out as much efficiency as possible is often so heavily rewarded is great in a strategy game like this.
So you've been playing for like 40 hours.
I'm 60 hours
Oh
in.
my God.
It's so good.
And you're in New Game Plus mode now?
No, I'm in Act 2 of 3.
Yeah, this is Baldur's Gate?
I'm certainly taking my time with it, but this is no short game, for sure. You commented on difficulty settings approaches in Casey's mod.
Yes.
And how it's like...
Scripto.
It's challenging you to like push yourself a little bit to get the extra lore.
Otherwise, yeah, you're just playing the same infinite endless runner.
That very much applies to this game as well. I like Midnight Suns' approach to difficulty settings. There's a long list of options for how hard you want to go. Right now, I'm mostly playing on Heroic 2, but sometimes I dabble with Heroic 3. It's like a spectrum. You can constantly tinker with it without penalty. But the reason you would want to push yourself to the very limits of your proficiency
is so that Iron Man will give you a reflective holographic MODOK.
The higher the difficulty, the greater the reward modifiers. So your characters earn more XP on higher difficulties. You get more like in-game currency. This is an approach to difficulty I think Supergiant games always do, and it always resonates with me, where if I'm just left to my own devices and I just pick a difficulty option arbitrarily just to kind of like, I don't want it to be too easy or too hard, I'll often maybe play normal or maybe something slightly harder than normal in an average game. But in a game like this, where you're incrementally rewarded every notch you decide to up the difficulty, I'm always flirting with the limits of my skill threshold. And that's great.
What Nuzlocke potential is there for this game?
You're talking about, fill us in.
Permadeath. If Captain Marvel goes down, is she erased from your deck for the rest of the game?
I'm pretty sure there's 0 permadeath in this game. It is handling you with kitty gloves in that respect, which is kind of surprising considering this comes from the XCOM studio. I think this game serves as a good case study in one element of game design I've always had like a pet fascination with, and that's how games handle randomness. Midnight Suns handles randomness in the best way possible. Here's where Chris gives listeners a crash course in the two flavors of randomness. Heath, say them with me.
RNG and not RNG.
Not quite. I was going for input versus output randomness. What distinguishes the two is where the randomness occurs in relation to your decision making. The classic example for output randomness is XCOM, actually, from the same studio. You give your soldier a command to shoot at that alien, and you see there is a 95% chance to hit. You give the order, and then either the soldier makes the shot or catastrophically fails. The randomness occurs after your decision. That's output randomness. That's the bad kind. Where Marvel's Midnight Suns, this card game, the randomness comes from what do you draw out of your deck? Every turn, you get a fresh new hand of like 7 cards.
Every turn?
Every turn, your hand refreshes.
What?
Yeah. You draw up to 7. So if you were holding something, it would remain.
Oh, yeah, okay. Fair. Then you misspoke.
Nah, I was a little fast and loose with the details. Anyway, you see your entire hand, you see your entire option buffet before you, and only then do you make your decisions. Once all of the randomness has been accounted for. Your decisions occur after the randomness. That's input randomness. And that gives you so much more agency. The issue with output randomness is it gives you poor feedback. It can confuse players and make the path to improvement opaque. Because in XCOM, you can absolutely make the correct call, and then the shot misses. The game's giving you feedback that you messed up, when in reality, your decision was sound. You just got a bad die roll. Where input randomness, where you see the random card draws occur, and only then do you start impose your agency upon it. That's input randomness.
So does Quacks of Quedlinburg have both? Because you're choosing what you put in your bag?
There's not really any randomness in what you choose to put in your ingredient bag.
Right. So that's... Oh.
That's just not randomness.
The forbidden third type.
Third type. No, Quacks of Quedlinburg, the board game, is output randomness dialed up to 11. Good question, though. So anyway, that was fun. And then if that wasn't enough, the fact that you also get to mitigate your luck very often in this game, since you get like 2 mulligans every turn where you can redraw the least valuable cards in your hand. I continue to be impressed with, it's a pretty robust cast of characters you get to bring into battle with you.
You got Venom and Bus Driver and...
I'm impressed with the variety of distinct play styles on show between the various heroes. They all have their own bespoke card mechanics attached to them. How, like, Captain Marvel, she's a godlike character, but she needs to charge up first, which is represented by needing to play 3 of her specific cards before she goes binary. And then she's just nigh untouchable. Yeah. Or Blade, the vampire guy. His deck focuses all about inflicting bleed on opponents, so they take damage over time, which is appropriate for a blood-sucking vampire. Or Morbius is in this game.
His play style is Morb.
He's another vampire character.
His special attack is Box Office Bomb.
He hasn't said the line yet, unfortunately.
He's starting to.
So yeah, I like how characters' personalities are represented through their card mechanics, and I like how you're constantly incentivized to become proficient with the whole cast, because often story missions will have characters you must bring with you. You don't get a say.
Oh, it's a regular, not Sparks of Hope. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom battle.
Oh, where
you
Mario
must have Mario.
Must have Mario.
And one Rabbid? No. You could go full Mario.
You could. So yeah, I like that you are not allowed to specialize with only Blade and Iron Man, for example. You need to kind of know everyone. If you ignore Magic's deck and never upgrade it, you're going to pay the price later on when she's a mandatory inclusion. And that brings me to my wrap-up here, where obviously I love this game. Combat's impeccable. I have to say, if the character writing and the narrative resonated with me just a little bit more, I think Midnight Suns would be entering favorite game of all time territory.
Ooh, it would run the chance of supplanting Mass Effect.
It's firing on so many cylinders. The story is just a little bit too impersonal. The stakes are too high. It's a save the entire world plotline. When the game gets a little more intimate is where it shines. The one example I have is Blade's book club. Let me tell you about this. So Blade, the stoic, dark and silent brooding type, vampire hunter, he's surprisingly shy when it comes to romance, it turns out. He's got a major crush on Captain Marvel, and he comes up with a scheme to get more one-on-one time with Marvel. He invents a book club. Unfortunately, Captain America catches wind of it, and he invites himself in, which is ruining the intimate one-on-one time with Captain Marvel, of course. So Blade, he confides in your player character, the Hunter, because you're best buds, of course.
You gotta get Captain America to leave the book club.
Yeah, he basically invites you in to act as his wingman. You do multiple sessions. The group meets like once a week. Each character takes turns nominating a book. Captain Marvel nominates a book from her like Kree homeworld about agriculture. It comes time to discuss it. Blade on the down low hates it, but he can't tell his GF crush that. So he's like covering for it, trying to obscure the fact that this Kree book on harvesting wheat didn't do it for him. Meanwhile, you've got the side plot where Captain America, he's having a grand old time in the book club. He comes over to you, Hunter. You have a hilarious conversation with him where Captain America's like, listen, Hunter, I realize there's some weird undertones in the book club. Blade might have started it for a very specific reason. Blade just wanted to become closer friends with me, didn't he? He totally misinterprets the ulterior motives. It's great. Blade's book club is the narrative high watermark of Midnight Suns. And that's the only part I'm emotionally invested in.
Too bad we'll never get a sequel because Firaxis Man left the company after this one was commercially mixed.
Yes, while there may have been a studio departure I don't know about, the game was not a success financially. So chances of a sequel are probably slim, which is too bad because this game has oodles of potential to be even better. And that was the big, steamy Chris Marvel's Midnight Suns update. I'll report back next up. Well, I probably won't report back next episode.
We'll let you know how hour 100 compares to hour 1.
Sure. Do you need me to riff any more, or is that enough for a what we've been playing section? Are you booting up more rounds of Crash Team Racing?
I'm just booting up Conquer.
Heath will give us stream of consciousness impressions on the show.
Maybe check in with the Video Game Hall of Fame.
Oh.
Yeah, here in Rochester, New York.
I would love to do that.
Well, last time we spoke about it, Minecraft got inducted back in 2020.
We might have missed a couple of years. This was kind of your pet project.
I distinctly remember us talking about King's Quest and Centipede and Bejeweled.
Yes.
So let's go through 2021's inductees.
This is, of course, by the Strong Museum of Play.
Yeah. Down the street. Okay. Stop me as soon as you want to say anything. 2021's inductees were...
we're going to recap all the years we missed?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Or what? You want me to do this year's and then next...
I think we have enough time on this episode to fully catch up.
Yeah,
so
sure,
by all means.
There we go. The inductees were Animal Crossing, OG. Microsoft Flight Simulator, the OG, the 1982 release. StarCraft, and where in the world was Carmen Sandiego?
Those were 2021 inductees or nominees?
The inductees.
Okay.
The nominees were obviously Call of Duty again, FIFA again. These always get nominated, but they'll never get in. I think Portal was nominated for the first ever time.
Okay.
In that year.
A worthy nomination.
I wonder if it'll get in 2022, which had Dance Dance Revolution, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Ms. Pac-Man, which I approve of. Ms. Pac-Man is as worthy of Hall of Fame status as Pac-Man.
Really?
Yeah.
Are both inductees?
Oh,
or did they make a judgment call?
Bruh, Pac-Man is in the Hall of Fame.
I feel
Pac-Man
like
got inducted in 2015. I think the first year they did it.
I feel like you need to choose one or the other.
No. I'm telling you, it's
But that your whole thesis is the opposite.
yeah, right. They were different enough.
Tell me how they are different enough.
Oh, you're gonna. I forget. I think the layouts were different, and Ms. Pac-Man was faster. She has a bow. No, I'm forgetting all the reasons, but I know from like a past life watching the Tim Rogers video that Ms. Pac-Man was formatively different.
All right.
Yeah, trust me, bro. And Sid Meier's Civilization.
Those were the 2022 inductees.
Right, yeah. On to 2023, this past year. This is the last year that they've done it.
Most up to date.
Get ready for this. Get ready to be like, huh? Barbie fashion designer. Computer Space. The 1971 arcade cabinet. You're controlling a rocket and you shoot flying saucers type.
Okay.
It predates Pong. I know you're thinking of Galaga, but
I'm probably just picturing Space Invaders.
Chris is just picturing like a TI-82, the calculator. Last of Us.
Oh, interesting.
Inducted already. It is the newest game to ever be inducted.
Released in 2013.
You betcha.
It's the most recent inductee.
In release date,
right.
Not. It's also
in the most recent batch of inductees.
And Wii Sports.
Okay.
Yep.
Barbie fashion, what?
Barbie fashion designer, you have to assume when the Barbie movie hit its zeitgeist.
Oh, yeah.
That definitely pushed it.
I don't know. I think 2023 is the first year I think they kind of lost the thread.
What, Wii Sports, though?
Wii Sports can be there. That's fine.
Computer Space and Last of Us. All right. Last of Us proved that video games could be movies, too.
Yeah, it sure did.
To the masses.
The one I least object to there is Wii Sports.
Watch, they'll nominate Spyro, and then I'll be like, this is the year that they really fell off the wagon. Chris will flip. No nominees yet for 2024. And that was that segment.
What do we know what nominees didn't make the cut in 2023?
Quake. FIFA again, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The first one. Angry Birds, Age of Empires. GoldenEye 007. NBA 2K. And Wizardry.
Okay. I'd like to be a fly on the wall during those conversations on what makes it.
You know what makes it. Longevity. Is it more than just a passing fad? Geographical reach. Icon status. Is it like widely recognized and actually remembered? And then influence. How significantly did it affect the design of other games to come in the future?
Sure.
So obviously that Computer Space piece of shit it gave rise to friggin' Ikaruga and Galaga and all those shmup likes. Asteroid, probably.
I'd believe it.
Candy Crush got nominated though. Just shy of Last of Us's release date.
Okay. Was that 2011?
12.
Okay.
If they're going to nominate a game from 2014,
ooh, weak year for
obviously be Mario Kart 8. But they already got Mario Kart.
Yeah.
And Mario Kart 8 is no Miss Pac-Man.
It's not. It's going to fail in the influential department since it's just iterating on the
Hearthstone?
Maybe.
PT? Oh, Five Nights at Freddy's. Unironically.
Was nominated?
No, it came out in 2014.
Oh. Well, I guess it's...
I think it deserves a nomination.
Its icon status is big.
Yeah. And that was that segment.
Thanks for whipping it out of your ass, Heath.
Be ready for when we review the 2024 nominees the next time we have a lull in the episode.
Looking forward to it. All right, with that, how about we take a break, Heath? And when we come back, we'll have a big discussion topic.
Go! And we're back.
We're just going to have a conversation topic on our video game related hot takes.
I was ready for you to say pet peeves, and then I'd be like, we've done this 3 times.
Yeah, it's deja vu. Anyway, we're just going to talk about our hot takes about either specific games or trends in the industry at large that we think will be unpopular. If listeners, for whatever reason, want even more of this content, we did kind of do this very same conversation topic back on episode 44 and 45 in 2020.
When we were prepubescent.
But you love saying that.
It's always funny to say.
I think there's such a thing as overusing it. Anyway, it's 3.5 years later. I figured Heath and I might have some fresher, hotter takes to share with the listeners, and that's why we're here. I myself have come up with 5.
Should we do the call to action like your mom suggests and say, if you become irate at the sound of a single take,
if you're incensed by the end of this,
feel free to write your rebuttal at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, or just send in your own hot takes. I'd love to hear what our listeners think would be an unpopular opinion. Tell us what you think about Crash Team Racing played in a browser.
The ideal platform.
As the designers intended. Heath, would you like me to kick things off?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we can alternate. Here we go. I thought I'd make as many enemies as possible right off the bat with my first hot take, which is...
motion controls mandatory.
My first one just is... Pokemon is the most overrated entertainment property of all time.
Well, yeah.
You agree?
By its GDP alone.
For anyone who has never seen...
it's the most lucrative IP in existence.
Wikipedia's list of highest grossing media franchises. Pokemon is number 1.
That's like saying the Bible is overrated.
With a total revenue of $88 billion for Pokemon over its lifetime. Yeah, I just think it's baby's first JRPG that functions as a glorified rock, paper, scissors contest does not deserve to be deemed as humanity's highest grossing franchise in history. It just does not.
That being said, when my first child is born, get excited for the live choosing of their starter.
I think the fact that Game Freak, the stewards of the franchise, the developer that makes all the Pokemon games, are
those shysters.
They're so confident. Their completely undiscerning captive audience will continue to gobble up anything they get served so that Game Freak continues to be financially rewarded for releasing these technically incompetent video games that refuse to innovate.
They'll piss on you from above and tell you it's the rain dance move.
For a franchise ostensibly all about the evolution of pocket monsters, the gameplay formula has not evolved in decades. Just Pokemon is a creatively bereft intellectual property, and the magnitude of its popularity reflects poorly on us as a species.
What?
That's how hot my first take is. If you like Pokemon, you're wrong.
Well, I like Pokemon in the sense that my boy Worcester will go live in the good old Australian outback and keep me company when I'm burning the midnight oil. It's great background noise.
Is great background noise deserving of the most lucrative property ever conceived?
No.
So it's the most overrated intellectual property ever made. I rest my case. That's my first hot take.
The most underrated intellectual property is Titanfall.
That's quite the superlative to lump on Titanfall. I mean, I like Titanfall. I wouldn't go anywhere close to calling it the most underrated franchise.
Name a more underrated one.
Yeah, do it.
Come back to it.
Yakuza.
No, I think it's perfectly rated.
Have you been hearing any Infinite Wealth impressions? It sounds out of pocket, that game.
Why?
It's so good.
Okay.
I actually have a reason to bring it up later, so we'll save it for then.
Oh, good. Heath's take that is hot is Nintendo should concede their button layout.
Oh.
Nintendo should put the A button where the X button is and the B button where the B button is.
So Nintendo's the odd man out.
So they invented the controller. I'm just going to say that again in case you missed it. Nintendo invented the game controller. And they put the buttons in the wrong spots.
They certainly invented a controller before either Sony or Microsoft did.
The last game I played on my Switch was, I think I was setting up Smash for my boss's son. And boy, am I so accustomed to my Xbox controller's layout.
Yeah. So just for the uninformed, the A and B buttons on Nintendo controllers, which serve as the confirm or cancel actions, are inversed compared to the other console manufacturers' controllers. So they're like swimming against the current.
Much to the bane of not professional gamers, because they stick to one controller and just ride it out. But content creators that have to jockey between,
right?
It's probably as difficult as knowing two languages.
It can feel a little bit like that. You need to flow from one to the other.
And rather than Xbox hopping on the Nintendo layout, I think Nintendo should concede that the Xbox controller is more ubiquitous.
Certainly if you lump Sony's share of the market in with them.
Barring a DualShock's or a DualSense's iconography, it's the same function. It's same functionally to the Xbox.
Right, same positions.
Yes, yeah. So that for that reason, I'm saying that. Not to mention, what is Southpaw?
Oh,
in controller parlance,
it's whatever it is. I avoid it like the plague.
Yeah, isn't it? It's alien to us. But Nintendo, sorry, just that too. And then Nintendo should hop on, like the Switch 2. Make the Switch then to good buttons.
That's an interesting one. I see why Nintendo is so adamantly stubborn, because they were there.
They
first.
Invented it.
They were there first. They set the dynamic, and then now they're the odd man out. It's interesting,
right? They're like the Washington Redskins. They were there first. They're not going to change it. But then they changed it. I'm equating the discomfort of learning a new button layout to racism.
Yeah, I see why your mind went there. All right, my number 2, hot take.
Yes.
Gun to my head, Heath, if I could only have one.
I heard the word Gundam.
Oh, sorry. Gun to my head.
Gundam my head.
If I could only play one for the rest of my life, I would choose turn-based games over real-time games.
Oh, for sure.
You're in agreement.
For sure.
I feel like that would be a minority opinion.
I can't even name a real-time game. That's not true.
Well, apparently, as we've been figuring out lately, you're not an action game guy. So I guess you agreeing with me would make sense.
Yeah.
I suspect if you interviewed...
Frostpunk is a real-time game. But you can pause it. If you can pause it, then it's fake time.
Yeah, that's a
Europa Universalis.
That one's on the fence. I suspect if you polled the population at large, though, real time would be preferred.
What?
Yeah, I mean that would capture sports. That would capture.
Chris, that doesn't.
That would
count.
capture all shooters, pretty much all competitive multiplayer video games, Call of Duty.
Chris, lumping. Okay, sorry. You're using real time as to mean more than just real time strategy games.
Of course. No,
right.
Real time games versus turn-based games.
Oh, okay.
So if we're separating all games into 2 distinct categories, real time or turn-based. I'm on team turn-based. I think that's the minority opinion. I play games for a wide variety of reasons, but if I had to boil it down to just a single reason, I love being forced to make interesting decisions and then witnessing the consequences of my actions play out before me.
What's super hot?
Stop finding the corner cases, Heath.
I live in the corner.
On my dichotomy, super hot would be real time.
Okay.
Turn-based games, I feel, create an environment where the player can be asked a more complex, nuanced, or multifaceted question that demands more interesting decisions to be made on just account of, hey, you can sit there with the decision and ponder it. Where a real-time game, despite how satisfying they can be, and don't get me wrong, it would be a big loss to be no longer able to play my character action games or my shooters. I would be suffering not having access to those anymore. But to lose access to the rich decision space of a turn-based game would be illegal. I couldn't contend with that. So that's why I am in camp turn-based. I couldn't give up my board gaming hobby. I couldn't give up Midnight Suns or Into the Breach or Slay the Spire. Those are the games that I could play for a lifetime, where I think maybe I kind of get the point of Halo at this point. I'll continue to play it, but I don't need to continue to play it.
I take issue with this thought experiment.
My categorization?
Yeah, I feel like it's like asking if there's more wheels in the world than doors.
It's a somewhat arbitrary division, but just as a thought experiment, I think I'm on team turn-based.
I think I have to disagree.
So you're team real-time?
The ultimate caveat is you can convert any turn-based game to real-time with just a timer.
Implementing a timer?
Yeah. That's why like the critical ends just kind of fugs up. Whereas you can't do the reverse.
You cannot do the reverse. Well, you could, in some ways you could do the reverse. Maybe not. No, it's easier to translate from turn-based to real-time, probably. No, never mind. It's a weird, converting between the two, in some ways I think they're fundamentally incompatible.
That take was hot, Chris, but wait till you hear this take.
Hit me.
Localization should be stricter.
Localization, the process of
taking Japanese games and slapping some ketchup and mustard on that American hot dog.
It doesn't have to exclusively be a Japanese game.
Name another country, Chris.
Poland.
Those are American. Oh, yeah, Witcher.
Witcher and Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk too. No, there are games that I have come to know that I just can't get into because they're too Japanese.
Can you expand on what you mean by make localization stricter?
Yeah. So, the number one game that comes to mind is D4, that sweary game.
Dark Dreams Don't Die.
Yeah, dude, don't you wish Dark Dreams Don't Die was stripped of all of its anime and made American?
No.
Yeah.
If you stripped it out, specifically in the case of D4,
it would be awesome. It'd be like Revengeance.
There'd be nothing left. That's all that game is, dude.
That's the joke of I'll have a nun pizza with left beef. Have you heard that with
No.
the Vlogbrothers?
I have not.
So, okay, really, I'll make this fit under 20 seconds. Hank Green used the Domino's mobile app to order a pizza, and it's like to check all that apply. He removed the checks so that it was no sauce, no cheese, just beef on the left side, and he took a photo of the result.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen the picture.
Yeah. So, no, I want to take the Japanese out of Dark Dreams Don't Die. I want to take the Japanese out of Katamari. Bailey would have totally dug Katamari if it controlled a little better, and if it wasn't like King of the Cosmos, and the OST was more globally appealing.
Would you levy the same complaint at something like 13 Sentinels?
Yes, with the exception of like historical events. Like obviously,
you want
1945 can't change.
Right. I mean, 1945, similar events were happening in America as Japan, just from the other perspective.
Yes.
But you want Juro to be Jimmy.
Yeah, I want Iori Fuyusaka to be getting a hot dog. The hot dog motif is coming in real strong from the corner store.
Instead of ice cream.
In yakisoba pan and everything. No, it'd be like they localize games, do they not?
Right. Localization is the process of turning certain cultural references that would be specific to one country and make them comprehensible by a wider market.
Yeah. Just just put an extra 0 on that budget.
But at a certain point, you lose the identity of the original product. Not every game needs to be for everybody, Heath. There's a large segment of the American video game consuming populace that likes these games for their Japanese-ness. What's that?
I might play a Yakuza game. I'm not saying it has to be GTA, but just localize it a bit more.
The recent ones now have English voice acting. So that's like a big...
Oh yeah. That's the pocket take in this hot take is dubs over subs.
In the case of video games, I generally agree with you because games are interactive and require your attention. So you might not be able to read the subtitles in time.
Yeah.
However, I do play most Yakuza games with Japanese voice acting because it fits. Trust me. All right,
That's
that
one.
That was a hot one that I definitely disagree with. I might write in to disagree. All right, my third one, it's not very grandiose. It's pretty darn specific. Nothing too deep here. This one you can weigh in on. This is my hot take number 3 is the one
It hasn't stopped me before.
I am maybe the least confident in. I'm coming from a place of ignorance, but here it is. I lack the theory of mind to put myself in the headspace of someone who would enjoy Animal Crossing. I don't get it.
Or Dreamlight Valley to include that too.
And here's where I might be misspeaking, Heath. Here's how the game was pitched to me. A game devoid of tension or stakes that is intended to be played over such a long duration would have the effect of making me painfully aware of my own mortality.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What is fun to an individual is highly subjective. But to me, a large component of making a game compelling is tension, is like sweating about something, whether it be a form of conflict or a time crunch. Am I right? Is Animal Crossing completely lax in that respect? Are there any stakes?
Yeah, if you click the button too early, you don't catch the fish.
And what is the penalty? You just try again?
Yeah, you have to cast your fishing rod again.
And in doing so, you lose ever so much more of your limited finite time on Earth. Yeah, it's just watching your life play out in front of you glacially. This game franchise, it was just inducted into the Video Game Hall of Fame
in 2021
by the Strong Museum of Play. It is a 20 million plus seller on the Nintendo Switch. It is a massively appealing franchise. I can't comprehend the appeal whatsoever.
I think if you were a woman, it would appeal to you more because life is stressful enough for the other half.
That could be true. I mean, we'll never know, but hey, maybe.
I don't have a ton to contribute in the devil's advocate. I'll just say that when you shake the tree and the beehive comes out, the music alone is enough to get me tense.
Spike your cortisol.
There you go.
There's an addendum to this. There will come a day where I will find out what I think of Animal Crossing when, in the year 2035 or so, when I finally catch up on the Yakuza series and I play Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Apparently, there's an entire Animal Crossing game in Infinite Wealth. And I will dip into that, and I will finally understand what Animal Crossing is all about.
You're saying there's a bootleg, or
the Yakuza franchise, known for their needlessly comprehensive mini games, invented an entire Animal Crossing knockoff game that is embedded within the bowels of Infinite Wealth. Just like you had the entire Diner Dash running a hostess club in Kiwami 2 and Yakuza 0.
You sure did.
They're riffing on that.
This game came out Monday? Or
it came out mere moments ago.
Yeah. Is this the best Yakuza game?
From the little bit of talk I've heard, it is in contention for the best Yakuza game. That's correct.
Damn.
Which is high praise considering how many there are.
Yeah. But it's got Kiryu's new voice actor. Or no, Japanese is probably the same.
I'm out of date on that. It's got Kiryu's new hairstyle. That's what it has.
It's very not as cool as it was.
No, it seems like about a bit of a downgrade.
Yeah.
All right, that was my hot take number 3, Animal Crossing. I just can't understand it.
Now has my hot take number 4.
I think it would be your number 3. I started.
Okay, yeah, my number 3. You should ban iPads in your baby's hands until they're like 8. And if your kid wants to play a video game, because the kids across the street have Doom Eternal or whatever, you should say, we have that at home, and you give them a typing game. I think in general, giving your baby a video game is probably not the smartest choice.
Baby, which ages are we talking about?
6 and under.
Yeah, I think you could flirt with games by age 5.
No, that's what Heath's hot take is. If you're
Your hot take is...
you ever hear the ESRB clone in Europe go Peggy 18?
Yes.
Here's my I'm stepping into the voiceover booth. Age 6. So yeah, that'll play before the trailers of all your games that are 6 and up from now on. No, you shouldn't let your baby play video games because it'll melt their brain and they won't develop social interactions with other people and they'll become the kid in the pink pajamas and the modes of play image that I referenced so many times. You should give them instead like typing games. Because then they'll be like 150 words a minute by the time they need to learn cursive.
All right.
Chris is looking at me like I added bleach to my cereal.
You took Subnautica to heart, and you've been using bleach on all your water
On
products.
all my water products.
I suspect you don't want me to dig into your number 3 anymore because you don't firmly believe it.
No, I mean, you're not, Chris, when you become a parent, you're not going to let your kid onto your desktop until they're able to ride a bike. When I did not know how to ride a bike. And then my parents said, "Hey, if you do, we'll take you to Toys R Us." And that day I got Pokemon Sapphire.
How old were you when you learned to ride a bike?
12 years old.
No, you weren't.
I don't remember.
Okay. I think
I got a game though when I first did that hustle.
I don't think I learned how to ride a bike until age 9 or 10. Which is probably pretty late.
Which is probably good game learning age because by that point you've already done 10,000 hours worth of catch.
When did you get your first hands-on with video games?
I'm trying to Leapster doesn't count, right? So it had to be Nintendo Advance SP.
And what age would you estimate that was?
That was 12, I think.
Wow, that's so late.
Right?
I definitely was playing games by age 5.
Yeah, and look how that turned out.
Great.
No, the earlier you let your kids play games, the worse they become. So
wow.
So just
what a boomer perspective.
No, because it kind of melts them, and then they don't know how to interact with the chads on the baseball field.
I would definitely agree. The content of the game you're putting in front of a very young, impressionable child could be detrimental. The context of the content. You think just having an interaction in a digital medium has a deleterious effect on a developing mind?
I think this has been clinically proven.
No.
What are you talking about? You're telling me that all these chubby cheeks with iPads because their parents just want them to shut up and that like the kid's been conditioned, oh, if I cry, I will get the shiny screen.
You're drawing a false comparison between being exposed to a video game and having your parents' presence replaced with a digital babysitter.
I'm typing in screen time developmental delays. A recent study found that children exposed to more screen time at the age of 1 show developmental delays in communication and problem solving by age 2 and 4. That's from Hackensack Meridian Health.
We weren't arguing age 1. I don't think you're coherent at that age.
Age 4 is close to 6. Some might even say by 2 years. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends younger than 18 months limit screen time to like video chatting with grandma across the country.
Agreed.
Alone. Ages 2 to 5, non-educational screen time to about 1 to 2 hours a day.
Sure.
Ages 6 and beyond, no set amount of time, but it's recommended still limit it to develop healthy relationships with screens. That's where Heath's number 3 is coming from. Like, I would let my 2-year-old play a video game for the amount of time that you and I play video games, as long as it's like learning to type, friggin' brain age. That's my hot take.
All right. I feel like you've edited your hot take to be more palatable to me.
Yeah. Well, that's this show. I'm editing my game playing to be more palatable to you. That's what CTR is.
CTR in browser, the most palatable game playing experience imaginable.
I think for a second, though, you said that infants suffer no developmental delays from cracking open a digital screen.
Listen, I think I'm sitting here where I am today, and it's all thanks to my early hands-on experience with Pajama Sam.
I'll make an exception for Pajama Sam.
Thank you. On that, we can agree.
All right, that's a good way to end it.
All right. That's good. I was feeling incensed. Moving on.
Well, because Chris, you're telling me that there's a world in which knock, knock, knock. Hey, congratulations on the child, Chris. Where's the little strapping young boy or girl or other? Oh, there they are, Chris. What's he doing on your desktop? He hasn't eaten solid food yet. And you'd be like, I don't see what the problem is, Heath.
You're sounding like a newscaster in the 90s during the Satanic Panic.
No.
As if screens are the devil.
Because Doom doesn't make school shooters, but Candy Crush makes dumb first graders.
There's definitely merit to which game you put in front of your developing child. You put chess in front of them, I think they're going to be just fine.
I'll come back to you on that.
Okay. Better yet, teach them Go. Deeper game.
Deeper game.
Moving on. All right, my number 4. If I was going to cut one of these, I'd probably cut this one.
Lukewarm take. Inbound.
Expand some perspectives, maybe. If you consider yourself a student of game design or really care about experiencing some really innovative mechanics out there that haven't been fleshed out broadly by the games industry, I think you owe it to yourself to expand your horizons outside of the realms of video games. You need to try games being developed in other mediums. I would point towards the modern board game or tabletop scene, actually, which have some game mechanics I've never really seen in a video game that I've really fallen in love with. I would point towards, I didn't even know this was a term until 2020, games that riff on the mechanic of shared incentives. I don't know any video games that I've come across my desk that have taught me about shared incentives like a game such as Chicago Express or 1830. These often economic, but not exclusively. There's examples like the Bridges of Shangri-La. These are very esoteric board games. I won't harp on it for too long because they're unknown to almost anyone listening. But I really respect a video game player who hops onto itch.io and plays a bunch of commercially unsuccessful indie games to experience like the most weird out there mechanics. If you want to try some of the most indie of indie games, hop onto some tabletop designer board games and see what they're coming up with. Negotiation games. I haven't seen many video games try to tackle that mechanic. But board games, there's a whole budding scene there. A video game release will be deemed a commercial flop if it sells in the tens of thousands of copies, where some board games I've played that are quite innovative have worldwide print runs numbering in the hundreds or single-digit thousands. They're so unknown. So if you want to really expand your...
How much is Food Chain Magnate?
How much does it cost?
No, you're saying...
What is its print run
numbers
size?
Of runs, yeah.
That's Splatter's most popular game. It's probably north of 10,000 now.
Okay.
Which is a pretty good board game success. If you consider yourself a student of game design, expand your horizons. Try some games in a different medium. You'd be surprised how there's this unexplored territory video games have not touched when it comes to certain mechanics. That's my hot take. Not super hot, am I right?
Yeah, it's go outside your comfort zone.
Basically, if you're an aspiring video game developer or video game student, there's a lot to learn outside of video games too.
I guess.
If that didn't inspire any passion rebuttal, Heath, we can move on.
I'm trying to think of the thing that I learned from going outside my comfort zone throughout the course of this show. I think the most transformative thing I learned from your exploration motif call to action that you just described is just not cheating.
Oh.
The pressures to cheat skyrocket when you enter the unknown frontier of games and you can't figure it out at your first crack.
Maybe something like sitting down at a new game and immediately loading up the Board Game Geek strategy forums and like perusing those threads.
Chris, I need to browse those forums. My stats depend on it.
You're saying it wasn't your OnlyFans you were updating?
It wasn't. I have no qualms about looking up forums during game day. That is a recommended strat of mine.
That's best practices.
Yeah. Chris.
Heath.
Wait, is this a hot take I've already said? I should be able to play games without fear of content being taken away by updates.
Oh.
I guess it's just a pet peeve reskinned as a hot take. I want to play Spider-Man with Yuri Lowenthal. Old Face.
Old Face.
Which was Young Face.
You want to play Overwatch 1.
I want to play Overwatch 1. I want to play PT.
You want to play some of those original Destiny raids.
Oh, I didn't even thought of that.
Yeah, Destiny cycles content in and out of being available.
Those bastards.
I suspect most people probably agree with you, which would make that a lukewarm take at best.
When we break up and I hijack the RSS feed and replace all the episodes with just my voice,
yeah.
Number one, it'll sound like I'm talking to no one. It'll be unlistenable. Because I will wishy-wash between, oh yeah, I guess I could see it that way, and then, wait, it'll be a non sequitur circus.
Yes.
And then also the audience member will feel like they got ripped off. Hot take number 4, I don't like being ripped off. That's my Kennedy impression.
Okay.
We choose not to go to the moon. Scalding, I know.
Yeah, wow. Don't burn yourself on that one.
And the Japanese need to be localized.
Wow. Okay. All right. Here's my last one.
Woo!
This last one is maybe my favorite one. I think it's pretty hot. According to Chris, new video games are generally better than old ones.
What? No. All I play are my old games.
Yeah, here we go. There's a couple reasons I might point to this being the case. One is, I think the advancement of technology is intrinsically linked to video games more so than other artistic mediums.
What's more intrinsically linked? What?
The advancement of technology.
Oh, for sure.
What is capable of being presented in a game is heavily dependent on what hardware it's running on. And that has changed drastically from the 70s until today, changing the very concept of what a game can be and giving us like much greater improvements. So the fact that we got some slightly different colors for our paintbrushes doesn't fundamentally change painting as a medium the way NVIDIA graphics cards change video games. So that's one reason I could point to the fact that 2024 video games, I think, are objectively superior compared to 1980 video games.
I thought you were about to say 2019 video games.
I mean, the further back you go, the more pronounced the disparity in quality becomes, in my opinion. Now, there's another reason I also can point to, and that's I must acknowledge that modern game design stands on the shoulders of giants. Things are only so good now because we've seen where we came from. When video games emerged as a market in the very early 70s, people hadn't broadly been thinking of what a good game design should even be in a digital form. That had to be created from scratch. And now, after decades and decades of iteration, we have a much better idea of what mechanics are compelling to a human brain. So that wealth of accrued experience, the game designers today can learn from the game designers of yesterday. This is a symptom of it being a fairly youthful art form, and that's why the modern games are also superior to games of yesteryear. Now, of course, there are those timeless bits of game design from the past that can still readily be appreciated today. I instantly think of how I played the Resident Evil 2 remake from last year, a game that was originally released in 1999, and they straight up lifted and transplanted the level design of the police station from the 1999 game to the 2019 remake I played. Those floor plans and staircases and enemy patterns were all the same. And
not the enemy patterns.
That's true, but
the
layout,
the guy on the right was moved to the left.
The locks and keys and the order in which you're able to explore that facility, that was all conceived of in the 1999 game. It holds up today. I immediately recognized how cleverly designed that police station was. There are those golden nuggets from the past that, despite all the years, they are not dusty. But I think those are the exception, not the rule. I think when considered holistically, video games tend to age more quickly than other entertainment experiences. What drove this home for me was also last year, I played the original Final Fantasy VII. Released in 1997, this game doesn't really hold up in a modern context.
No.
This is a lot of the people who played it at the time. If you ask them today, many people will say, oh, Final Fantasy VII, it meant so much to me. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Yeah, I played it today without that nostalgia bait. To me, it seems like they're drinking the Kool-Aid. And it led to me having a startling thought. And here's my reflective story for you, Heath. After playing Final Fantasy VII, a beloved, a critical darling from the 90s.
Yes.
At the time of its release, a high watermark for video games and narratives in the medium. And it just didn't do it for me. If the video game industry had stagnated and failed to significantly evolve what the concept of a game could be since the turn of the century, if games hadn't really changed that much since the original release of Final Fantasy VII, if the design trends were largely similar, I don't think I would be a participant in the gaming hobby, much less have the enthusiasm to talk about games on a podcast for 99 episodes. If you're a person whose concept of what a video game is was formed back in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, and you have not really updated it since, I think I can understand being disinterested in video games. I could actually see myself coming to a similar conclusion. Obviously, current day Chris, the one who's talking on this podcast, doesn't really relate to that stance whatsoever in the context of modern games, but that's only because I know what modern games are like. I've played them. I know all the advancements that have come in the most recent decades. And that brings me to a story about my dad.
What?
Yeah. I had a very brief conversation with my dad. It was circa 2019, 2020, a few years ago. Not very long dialogue I had, but it left a big impression on me because it was so eye-opening. My dad, this is not to throw any shade at my dad, he has zero interest in video games. In my entire life, I don't think I can recall ever seeing my dad play a video game even once. When I access that memory folder in my head, it's completely empty.
He's thinking to himself, oh, God, Chris is into these video games. Good thing that my other son, and he turns to see Thomas at his desktop, and he's like, oh, no.
For a man in his 70s, very common to not have a lot of video game touchstones. Not an unusual experience whatsoever. But back in 2020 or so, the topic of simulation theory came up. And could our reality be like a simulation of a digital variety or what have you? My dad made a comment to me. He was pretty confident that we're in reality, not a simulation, because he said to me this: all those digital simulations or digital games, they all have a score you're competing to get. And since there is no score in reality, there's no way it could be simulated, right? And that gave me a lot of insight into what my dad perceives a video game to be. There must be a score. You're being objectively evaluated to set a new record or compete with your buddies. So it was very eye-opening to me because I instantly think of my top 20 most influential favorite games, and I'm hard-pressed to think of a single one that assigns you a score. Could you imagine going through the Mass Effect trilogy, the sci-fi epic saga, and your Commander Shepard gets a score at the end after dealing with the Reaper threat? No, the concept of what a game can be in a modern context is so much broader than score chasing. It's immerse yourself in as deep a way as possible into some narrative, into a fictional world, to explore a character's shoes or perspective you don't encounter in your daily life, to find innovative mechanics of puzzle solving or a developer's life story in their indie game, or before your eyes where you blink and your life flashes before you. It showed to me where the fundamental disconnect lies with my dad. What he thinks a video game is and what I appreciate this medium for are completely unequal. And it made me a little sad, only because, this is an artistic medium that has left such a profound impact on me, and I'd like to share that with my loved ones. But when it's being miscommunicated so starkly, I know it's kind of a non-starter to try to convey what I like about the medium to them.
I played Dead by Daylight for the score. But only because you score more points, the more altruistic you are, the more objectives you achieve.
My soliloquy there wasn't meant to deride score chasing games. It was just to...
I'm trying to give credit to your dad. Yeah.
I was just trying to paint that the landscape of video games is so much broader. I enjoy playing Tetris once in a while. That's just a score chasing game.
Yeah, you're right.
Some would argue Tetris is a perfect video game, and I don't think I can say otherwise. But I just wanted to say video games are a buffet, and to think the only thing you can eat is cake is incorrect.
There's also pie.
Right.
That's a good number 5, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Heath. Sorry if I gave you something hard to follow.
Likewise, Heath's number 5, it echoes Chris's number 4, which, as we all recall, is just try something new.
Yeah.
Heath's number 5 is don't be like Bailey. Bailey likes bingo. A pure chance game.
Oh man, so much output randomness. Am I right?
Yes. Oh my God, you're totally right. No, she likes bingo. Probably because of nostalgia with her youth, but also probably not.
I mean, here's Chris the gatekeeper. I'm not sure bingo is a game.
Right, it's a random number generator.
You don't have any agency.
Right.
It's just checking to see if you're still conscious. That's not necessarily to throw bingo under the bus. I enjoy bingo, but I think it's more of an activity.
Yeah.
I've gotten hype when I connect my 5th row.
Lord knows you pop off more than any of us.
That has more to do with the prize I'm about to win than the fact that I got a bingo.
Right. That DVD player is yours. Yeah, I guess that's my hot take then, is lumping activities like bingo with other real games does a disservice to both.
We need firm lines of delineation.
Yes.
I could get on board with that. I'm out of hot takes. My chamber is empty.
We crossed the hour 40.
Wow.
In the uncut.
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it. Well, Heath, how do we tee up? We're going to close out this episode now. How do we tee up episode 100?
Folks, episode 100 is an episode that I've been looking forward to since episode 73. I'm just throwing that out. And we're going to celebrate 100 days of Mobius Tubes. That's not right. With our 100 favorite video games, aren't we, Chris?
Yes, 100 games will be on the docket. Heath's top 50 and my top 50.
I suggested we should each have our top 100, but Chris confidently told me that he would be catatonic by the 80s.
I just thought it would be a more meaningful show if we talked about half the games and were able to discuss them for twice as long each.
Fair enough.
I think we should also maybe throw in some of our favorite podcast memories as well. We could each count down a few.
Oh, you wanna? Yeah, you wanna?
Yeah, we should be navel gazy. It's episode 100. It's our, if not then, when?
Episode 200. You're totally right. If I gave a single about SEO developing this show, I would have a clip that we would throw it to. Navel gazy, as we call it.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What is it?
That's a thing.
All right.
I learned a new slang word this past week.
Chris, I want to put my finger on the sensor real quick. Go ahead.
I want to know if you're familiar. Glazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, and not referring to donuts.
Not referring to donuts. I've heard it come up twice so far in the past week. So yeah, if listeners want to be as hip as Chris, maybe hop on the Urban Dictionary and find out what glazing means.
Use it in a sentence in an email you write in.
Yeah. Show us what you've learned.
When you guys talked about, gosh, what was your first hot take?
Oh, the Pokemon one.
When you guys dissed Pokemon, you had to be glazing.
I think we did a good job glazing up episode 100, though.
Oh, sure. We sure did.
Yes. That's proper usage, I think. Anyway, fun recording with you, Heath. I'll catch you next time for the big one.
Yep.
See you then.